and please know we appreciate your presence. Our first matter of business is the approval of the consent calendar. Are there any corrections to the minutes posted for our Committee of the Whole meeting on May 13th, 2025? If there are no corrections, I need a motion to approve the minutes.
Madam Chair,
Yes, Ms. Middleton?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have, Ms. Middleton has made a motion. Ms. Mosley has made a second. It is moved and seconded to approve the minutes. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the consent calendar, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our second matter of business is appearance of visitors, and we have no visitors today, so we'll move right on to item number 3. Our third matter of business is instruction. Item 3.01, update on school designated underperforming schools and Elevate schools. This item is information only. Dr. Royster, I'll turn this matter over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. Just briefly before I turn it over to Dr. Stevens and Dr. McDavid to give you this update, as a reminder, there's a requirement, a state requirement, that we provide a quarterly update for underperforming schools. And we also made a commitment to the board to provide interval reports on the Elevate schools. Now, interestingly enough, the state requirement has some dates that align with that requirement. But unfortunately, the required reporting dates do not align with the return of the final validated test information. So what you will hear today is a summary to this point, and you will see some benchmark test data, but we will not get back the final validated test data until the beginning of the school year, and sometimes that can be as late as October of the coming school year. But there is a requirement to deliver this report at this time, so that's the reason it is not as meaningful as it will be when we have final test data. But we'll give you a little bit of insight into where we are with those schools moving forward, the schools that are both classified as underperforming and then our Elevate schools. So I'll turn it over at this time to Dr. Stevens and Dr. McDavid, whichever one of you is going first.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to share this update. As Dr. Royster referenced, our 2024 report card release from last year identified some schools as underperforming. Those were schools whose report card rating was either below average or unsatisfactory. We had our stakeholder engagement and planning. We had turnaround plans that were presented in December and approved by this board. We shared those with the State Department. We concluded our continuous improvement process at the end of this year, but throughout the year we shared with you in December, March, now June, the progress to date. In September, you will be able to review the actual SC Ready and end of course test data, but at this point what we're sharing with you, similar to what we've shared in the past, only our predictive results from benchmark. So today we're going to do an overview of that statute. We'll talk about the underperforming schools and share our preliminary projections. Remember, spring 2024 testing data will not be available until the fall, and this quarterly update includes that final benchmark or predictive results, not actual testing data. Our SC Ready and end of course data will be provided in the September update, and our process for revision and review will be shared. This is a part of the Education Accountability Act, which is aimed at identifying struggling schools and taking corrective action to ensure that all students receive a quality education. Specific to the turnaround plan, Section 5918-1625 was updated in 2022, and under this statute, schools with the designation of unsatisfactory or below average are identified as underperforming or turnaround schools. That is based on a report card, so when we share this information with you in our quarterly updates, we are only able to project one element of the South Carolina report card. That is the area of academic achievement. At the elementary and middle school levels, that represents 35 of the 100 possible points, and at the high schools, that represents 25 of the 100 possible points. High school graduation, or the graduation rate at the high school, represents 19 points, and we are able to share with you today that our high schools are on track for achieving the minimum of 70% or above on graduation rate. The 2024-2025 last school year's turnaround schools are listed. You have approved the linked turnaround plans which we've implemented throughout the year. This update, we include sharing with you their progress towards looking at our 2024 end-of-year benchmarks to our fall benchmarks. Looking at our elementary schools, there are 4. Alexander Elementary School, you will see the progress in comparison to the 3rd benchmark and the 2024 SC Ready data. You look at the progress, and we anticipate our projection is that our ELA and math performance at Alexander will increase for the actual results. Again, that's a preliminary projection based on the benchmarks. This chart is the same representation. Armstrong Elementary School, while we are looking at ELA and math, our projection in the benchmark from March looks as though they will have a slight regression in the areas of ELA and math. And Armstrong, this chart represents the same comparison to 2023-24 SC Ready end of year and the 2024-25 3rd benchmark. Duncan Chapel, our projection is that they will increase in the areas of ELA and mathematics based on the 3rd benchmark, and you will see the same pattern on their charts. Hollis Academy, we're also projecting that their SC Ready will improve from last year. That trajectory is represented also in the chart. In our 3 middle schools, we are sharing again our benchmark data. Berea Middle School, you will see that the projection is slightly lower in ELA and higher in math, and the representation in the chart format. Lakeview Middle School, Elevate, we anticipate there will be an increase in the ELA and math scores from last year, and the represented chart. Tanglewood Middle School, the projection in ELA and math is that there will be a slight decrease in the ELA and math. And represented here, you see the chart. In our 3 high schools, we used our 3rd benchmark. That 3rd benchmark is indicative, or a final benchmark is indicative of only those 2nd semester students. We will not have those fall EOC or the spring EOC exams until the fall, as we mentioned earlier. So from the 2023-24 school year, Berea High School is projected to show some decrease in the areas of Algebra 1 and Biology, while in English 2 and U.S. History, that final benchmark of the spring semester projected increases, as is represented by the charts. Carolina High School is projected to show an increase based on that final benchmark in all areas, Algebra 1, Biology, English 2, and U.S. History. And we share the visual representations. Southside High School is projected to have a slight decline from the 2023 324 EOCs in the area of Algebra 1, and projected to increase in the areas of biology, English 2, and U.S. history. Again, it's represented by those charts. Throughout the year, we have met with principals, supervisors, the deputy superintendent, and academic leadership to discuss the strategies and made modifications. Most recently, the turnaround plans were reviewed at our end-of-year conferences, and leadership teams revised plans as needed based on that progress toward the school's goals. Each assistant superintendent took that into consideration as they were reviewing the progress and developing professional development plans for the upcoming school year. We are reviewing the data to see if those strategies we outlined in our turnaround plans achieved the anticipated outcomes. And if they did, we are continuing those, and if they did not, we are looking at other ways of achieving greater results for the upcoming school year. Questions?
Thank you so much, Dr. McDavid. Does anyone have a question? Ms. Middleton?
Thank you. Now, you said the next testing will be in October?
We have already completed our end-of-year assessments for SC Ready and EOC in May. That's finished. We do not have the results of those tests back. Our Office of Data and Accountability with Dr. McCreary, we project July 17th is the date at which we will definitely have that. We will present that to the board in our September turnaround plan update, where we will have the actual numbers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What is the cutoff? What is the cutoff for consideration for a school to be underperforming? What is the percentage?
The cutoff, or I can get you the chart that we presented in January of last year that shows there's a different percentage out of 100 for elementary, middle, and high schools for the designation of below average and the designation of unsatisfactory. When that report card is delivered in October, it takes into account all of the many factors, and so the cutoff for unsatisfactory or below average, we did not share, but I'll get you those exact percentages. They differ for elementary, middle, and high.
Okay, I thank you for that. I know I'm always surprised when I look at a school and I see that, you know, they have like 28.7 or 12.1 in the example of Tanglewood Middle School, I guess, and that's actually a percentage. That's indicating to me that approximately 85% of the students are not passing. Am I saying that wrong?
What that reflects is a level of proficiency based on SC Ready, and South Carolina determines proficiency on SC Ready. There are 4 categories on SC Ready. Does not meet is a lower category. There's an approaches category, which means that students have basic knowledge of the concept and need to work to apply them. Meets is where the state draws the line for students meeting proficiency. That level of proficiency was designed under Education Accountability Act so that students are meeting proficiency, not just the minimum standards to pass a grade.
Okay. So it looks like the Elevate program has helped in, what is it, Alexandria Elementary School, and maybe that's something that should be considered for some of these other schools, like Tanglewood or some of the other schools in moving forward.
The data in our Elevate schools is promising.
Okay. Thank you. That's good.
Thank you, Ms. Middleton. Mr. Cochran?
Thank you. If our 3 high schools that are currently on the underperforming schools list, if they have in fact improved their graduation rates to the point that we think they have, then they will likely be able to shed that underperforming schools designation soon. Is that accurate?
The accountability matrix includes the areas on slide 6, achievement, student for high schools preparing for success, climate, multilingual progress, graduation rate, high school student success, and college and career readiness. Throughout this school year, the secondary assistant superintendents, Mr. Foster, has worked with the 3 schools that are listed and has been tracking the data in all of these areas. So I am reluctant to project all of the areas because we do not have indicators, but for those indicators we are tracking, such as graduation rate, that trend is moving forward.
I can certainly understand that.
Get a microphone.
To your point, sir, it'll be extremely close this year. We have best guess calculations that we can do to try to predict that accountability, and every single one of the 3 underperforming high schools will be so extremely close that we can't say for certain, but there would be no surprise if all 3 came off, but at the same time, there would be no surprise if they fall less than a point shy of that. And I think I can say with confidence by 26, 27, we'll no longer be discussing underperforming high schools in here.
I believe we're cautiously optimistic, Mr. Foster.
That would be a good way of saying it, yes, sir.
And if my memory is correct, even though I understand that all these other factors are part of it, our 3 high schools primarily were put on that list due to graduation rates. Is that correct?
So it truly is a math equation that multiple categories produce points, and then the overall points, to your question earlier, for the high schools, they need to hit at least 51 total points to get that average category and therefore no longer be designated as underperforming. Grad rate and CCR specifically were categories in which we can make the greatest gains to get to that average category.
Both of them appear to be tracking in a positive direction.
Yes, sir.
With our U.S. history scores for these 3 high schools, since we're talking about them in particular, in the fall, I think we had passing rates of 52%, 40%, and 50%. And I realize, I think there is basically, maybe that's not totally unforeseen based on statewide results, that U.S. history would be somewhat low, but with the results such as they are at the moment, is there anything that we did differently during the 2nd semester this year to try and improve on those results than we had been doing?
Dr. Stevens, do you want to cover our academics efforts in U.S. history?
Our academic specialists have continued to improve the curriculum maps that we are pushing out and the resources that we're making available to our teachers. That is a course that we are looking very critically at based on our historic performance, and that is something that we are continuing to improve with the specific resources that we're making available to teachers.
And Dr. Royster referenced previously that with our new standards, we added additional years to U.S. history because it covers all of U.S. history. However, we did not extend the time frame in which we teach the course. So pacing is important.
Have any of the past U.S. history tests been released publicly so that at least we have a better idea of what types of questions our students are struggling with?
That may be a question for Dr. McCrary. I don't recall them ever releasing publicly actual tests. There are some sample test questions out there. The question, Dr. McCrary, was, have they ever released any of the past actual EOCs in U.S. history?
Test items are too expensive to completely publish an entire exam. they do release single items, maybe upwards to 10 items across a period of time, so people can understand what types of items may be released, but never a full exam.
Thank you all very much. Thank you, Dr. Stiles.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran. Does anyone else have a question?
I have a quick question.
Ms. Mosley?
To Jeff's point, I thought maybe this was his question, but I don't think it was answered this correct way. For the EOCs, do they ever tell us, for example, if a certain section of an EOC, let's use history for example, is scored poorly across the board, not just for our county, but across the state? Like maybe, I don't know, like if there's certain questions that are consistently, or I should say, across the state, kids are not doing well on, that would be an indicator that maybe we need to teach it differently or teach it longer, or so. I'm just wondering, do they give us that kind of information?
Yes, Mrs. Mosley, they
Okay.
will in the EOC final reports give us a standard or strand level feedback that we can see for each of the areas of U.S. history, which areas our students and students across the state scored higher. They just do high, low, and medium, but they let us know which areas that are scored low in statewide and in our schools and in our district. Academic specialists then provide additional resources for the upcoming school year based on that specific data around areas in which we scored low.
Okay, so I assume they do that for all the other subjects?
Yes,
Like, so if
ma'am.
it's algebra and there's a certain unit that people maybe didn't grasp as well as another one, we kind of know what that is so that we can adjust.
And while we don't
Going
necessarily have the specific test questions or
Right.
specific assessments to work from, we do have test blueprints that are provided by the state where that gives us the specific standards that are covered, the number of questions that may fall within those different areas, and kind of the test, an outline maybe of what the test format may look like. So in addition to the standards analysis that we can do, our specialists work to provide additional samples that teachers can work from.
Okay. And then my second question, unrelated, and you may have said this in the beginning and I missed it. When was the spring benchmark done? Like, was it?
The spring benchmark date
The
was
scores we're
March.
looking at.
Yes. We did our spring benchmark in March before our spring break. And then the data came back right after spring break so that schools could utilize that in planning to make improvements between spring break and our May end of year testing.
Gave us about 3 weeks between test results coming back and schools beginning the window for testing.
Okay. So these scores that we're seeing here were done in March.
Yes.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mosley. Anyone else? Okay, hearing no more questions, our fourth matter of business is administration. And our first item in administration is 4.01, revision of board policy ACB, equity, diversity, and inclusion. This item came at the request of Mr. Cochran, and following Mr. Cochran's request, an ad hoc committee was formed this spring to review this policy. A special thank you to Mr. Cochran. Mr. Cochran, thank you for chairing this committee, and also thank you to the committee members, Ms. Brett, Mr. Klein, Ms. Morrison-Fair, and Dr. Presley. This committee met on May 5th and May 27th to discuss the current policy, related board policies, and potential revision. The committee the committee voted to move forward the revision before you for discussion and consideration. We have a recommended motion from the ad hoc committee to review board policy ACB, to revise board policy ACB as presented. This does not require a second. Any discussion? Ms. Morrison-Fair?
Thank you. I would just like to ask a question for clarification and also for documentation as to the reason that we are revising policy ACB, and also which strategic goals would that come under, the fact that we are revising that policy?
Ms. Morrison-Fair, I think I can answer that question just by saying this change came at the request of Mr. Cochran, and an ad hoc committee was formed, which you were a part, to discuss the policy. and it was the decision of the ad hoc committee to bring forth this revised policy.
And I understand that, I'm just trying to get documented the reason for that request. I don't know if you
Well-
can answer that or not. I know we somewhat discussed that in the committee, but I would like to get a statement as the reason for that request.
Well, that, again, the reason was because Mr. Cochran requested that we relook at the policy to look for possible revisions. And that's the only information that I have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Stiles, can I go ahead and answer that?
Sure you can.
From a standpoint. First off, again, as when we started the committee meeting, I have some certainly philosophical differences with what is in the DEI policy based on my own personal beliefs as to what would be best for the district. But even more so than that, I think the policy in its current form certainly invites a lot of scrutiny from the federal government, especially, possibly state government in some cases. And I think it is certainly, it invites scrutiny that could possibly lead to us losing some federal grants, as happened in District 55 down in Lawrence County recently. And so from my perspective, as far as why I requested that we take a look at possibly revising or rescinding this policy, that's the two main reasons.
Thank you, Mr. Cochran, for making that known and for stating that. Ms. Morrison-Fair, does that answer your question?
It somewhat answers my question, but I know usually when we make revisions to policy, there's a cry from the public. And I know we created a committee that looked into, I guess, different things that were happening in, as you say, in the, I guess, in culture at the time the committee was established. And they came back with a statement that we needed that policy in order to be intentional with making sure that every student in Greenville County was successful. And so when you say you said personal beliefs and scrutiny from the federal government was the reason that you asked for us to look at this policy, and that was the only reason, but we were not having any complaints. We were not having any cry from the public in Greenville County. And you did mention District 55, which is in another county. So that somewhat answered my question, but not completely.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison-Fair. Ms. Brett?
Thank you, Dr. Stiles. From my understanding, this policy was put into place well over a year before the committee that Ms. Morrison-Fair is speaking of. So this agenda item, this policy has actually been in place pre the committee that we were just discussing. Now, I will say she was asking what goals were supported. On the CAL agenda item cover sheet, it says goals supported. Goal 1, student success. Goal 2, premier workforce. Goal 3, caring culture and environment. So the changes that have been suggested to this policy actually do not only encompass these 3 goals, but reword things so that they cannot be misconstrued in the future. I think that this is a great effort on both Doug Webb and on Jeff Cochran's part. We worked pretty hard on rewording this to keep together the sentiment of the original policy as written without necessarily giving away the baby with the bathwater, as my colleague who's not here today would possibly say. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brett. Does anyone else have a comment or question? Okay. Hearing no more questions or discussion, all in favor of the motion?
Chair, could we make this a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Ms. Ashley, if you would do a roll call vote on this?
Brett,
Yes.
Mr. Cochran,
Yes.
Ms. Doolin. Yes. Ms. Middleton,
Yes.
Ms. Morrison Fair,
No.
Ms. Mosley,
Yes.
Dr. Stiles.
Yes. Motion carries with a vote of 6-1. Our second and final administrative matter is 4.02, appointment to Coordinated School Health Advisory Council. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this item?
We'll just briefly, Ms. Bell coordinates this, but she's actually on vacation this week. So if there are any questions that I'm not able to answer today, which I don't believe there would be any, but if there are, she would be available at the board meeting when this goes before the entire board, the regular board meeting for final approval. But this is a CSHAC appointment. As a reminder, that group is tasked with addressing the following health topics: physical activity, physical education, nutrition, tobacco use prevention, alcohol and other drug use prevention, chronic health conditions, unintentional injury and violence prevention, and sexual health. This is a statutory requirement, and it's also established in coordination with not only the Student Health and Fitness Act, the statutory requirement, USDA requirements for such a group, and board policy. So the recommendation that comes before you consists of 4 district staff members that are appointed by the administration, 2 board members who do not have serving terms, 6 school representatives that are appointed by the superintendent or the superintendent's designee. That's representatives from school sites. 4 to 6 community members who serve a 3-year term, 2 parents that serve a 3-year term. Those 2 are the ones being presented to you today for your approval, your final say regarding their appointment, and 2 students appointed to a 1-year term by the superintendent. So you have in your material 2 parents: Tahisha Pearson, Greer Middle School parent; Lauren Buckland, Bells Crossing Elementary School parent. Community members: Mary Allen, Sonny Endicott, Joe Urban, Sabrina Smith, and Sally Wills. Now, you can have as many as 6 community members. We only had 5 to apply for the 6 potential seats. You can have as few as 4, but our recommendation is to appoint those 5. 2 parents, I believe there were a total of 5 parents who applied, and these are the 2 recommended by Mrs. Bell, having had conversation with those individuals. Emphasis was placed on individuals who could offer knowledge and resources to the committee. The chosen participants for the community role included a representative from a community-based organization, Live Well Greenville, a children's ministry leader, a retired school counselor, and the owner of a school food service company. Those selected for the parent roles shared personal insights based on both their own and their child's experiences in our schools, along with backgrounds that support collaborative problem solving. Together, the group brings diverse perspectives across grade levels and geographic areas, because one of the things that I looked at when the names came to me was what geographic areas to ensure that we have representation from all over the county. And we do have that through parents, community members, and school representatives. The school representatives are Cherry Mills. She's a nurse at Carolina High. Nick Jones, PE teacher at Fountain Inn High School. Latoya Green from Fans at Wade Hampton, Julianne Ballou, Fans at Slater Marietta, Sarah Smith, nurse at Hughes Middle School, and Dalton Kelsey, school counselor at Eastside. So if you look through the list, you'll see a good representation geographically, a representation over the various appointments representing high school, middle school, and elementary school. And at the district level, the persons working directly in those areas serve on the committee. So Ron Jones, the Director of FANS, Janet Loggy, the Director of Health Services, Andrea Bell, the Health and PE Academic Specialist, and Jason Mullis, the Director of Psych Services. So we believe this is a committee that represents various levels throughout the district, various perspectives, various geographic areas, and different community areas throughout the district. So I'll be glad to answer any questions that I might answer.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. We have a recommended motion. Let's get the motion first, Ms. Doolin. We have a recommended motion from administration. Do I have a maker of the motion?
I'll make it. A motion to approve the parent and community members of the Coordinated School Health Advisory Council as presented for the term July 1st, 2025 to June 30th, 2028.
Thank you, Mrs. Doolin, and Ms. Mosley has made a second. Now, discussion. Ms. Doolin?
Thank you. I serve on this committee, as I believe Mr. Klein does also. I know Ms. Bush did, and he may have taken over for her, but we have not attended a meeting since Mr. Klein joined the board, and I'm not aware of any scheduled meetings by the CSHAC committee, so I'd like to formally ask that those meetings be put on the calendar for the next 12 months. Ms. Bell may need to schedule them, and if they are in person, there may be more attendance. So that's my request. Please put them on, let's have those meetings put on the calendar, please.
Thank you, Mrs. Doolin. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our next matter of business is building and grounds. Our first building and grounds matter is 5.01 Facility Project Report. This item is for information only. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this item?
I don't think there's anything there to draw particular attention to. We'll be glad to answer any question that you might have about the items listed there. Predominant, or I guess most importantly, the addition at Fountain Inn High School is on time. As you all know, occupancy is scheduled for this fall. The addition at Woodland, on time. Again, occupancy this fall. And the occupancy of Reedy Laurel, on time. And opening of that school, likewise, this fall.
Thank you so much, Dr. Royster, for sharing that. Any questions about this report? Okay. Ms. Doolin?
Thank you. Tennis courts are listed as, I guess, being resurfaced this summer. Are all the tennis courts on a renewal schedule?
They are.
What is it? How many years is it between resurfacing?
Tracks and tennis courts are on a 3-year cycle.
3. So each one is resurfaced every 3 years?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Doolin. Mr. Cochran?
My question was somewhat related to Ms. Doolin's question, only it was about the tracks, but that answered it. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
All the building component systems, and it would include paving, it would include tracks, tennis courts, all of that's programmed in based on the type systems we have with a projected renewal time. So whatever needs to be done major maintenance wise is scheduled through that MARS software system. So all the building components and exterior components, as we mentioned, all those are set up in there with a particular time. Now they also have to physically monitor that as well, because sometimes the life expectancy may be a little bit shorter than what's projected, or it may go a little bit longer than what's projected.
Thank you, Dr. Royster, for that clarification. Any additional questions? All right, hearing no more questions, our next matter of business is 5.02, architect selection for new Bryson Middle School. We have a recommended motion from the administration. Do I have a maker of the motion?
Madam Chair?
Yes, Ms. Middleton?
I'll make the motion to approve the architectural firm with which successful fee negotiations are achieved for the new Bryson Middle School.
Thank you. And I have a second by Mrs. Brett. Any discussion?
Dr. Stiles, if I might, just as a reminder, this will advance, a positive vote would advance this to the board meeting. So if you did have a question about this issue, it would be appropriate for executive session prior to the board meeting. And since it's a contractual matter, prior to the contract being actually approved.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. So we will not have discussion today. We will have that in our executive session. Okay, hearing no more discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our next matter of business is 5.03, City of Greenville easement at Blythe Academy. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this matter?
You may recall we brought to you last month a Duke Energy easement approval for this same project. It's a safety improvement project for Augusta Street that affects the corner of the Blythe Academy property. You all approved a Duke easement, which allows utility lines to be relocated. This actually allows the city to proceed with the sidewalk and the buffer strip improvement, which is similar to a project they did at West Greenville School. I guess maybe that was a year or so ago.
I think it was in 23.
2 years ago. I'm glad to answer any question that might board may have.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Royster. We have a recommended motion from administration. Do I have a maker of the motion?
Chair, I motion to approve granting a public access easement to the City of Greenville as presented.
Mrs. Doolin has made a motion. Mrs. Mosley has made a second. Any discussion? Hearing no discussion, all in favor of the motion. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Cochran, I didn't see you there.
Point of order, I think we lost our quorum, so do we need our quorum in order to take this vote?
Yes, let's see one. Yes. Okay. Who stepped out?
Amanda.
Okay. She's evidently going to be right back. So we'll, and we do have recommended motion for our next item, so we'll just wait a moment. Thank you for bringing that to my attention, Mr. Cochran. I didn't realize she left the room.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Thank you for bearing with us.
Oh, but we lost Sarah.
Lost another one.
And we lost Miss Doolin. I think she probably went to find you, Miss Brett. We'll wait on Miss Doolin and we'll be ready
All right,
to
she's
go.
back now, so you
Okay,
can move forward.
all right. Okay, hearing no more discussion, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
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 All opposed, no. The motion carries. Our final building and grounds matter is 5.04, Upstate Greenways and Trails Alliance Permanent and Perpetual Easement and Right-of-Way Request at Hollis Academy. Dr. Royster, would you like to speak to this item?
Well, this is a similar request to those approved in the past for Fountain Inn High School and Bryson Elementary School. I think there's also one at Lakeview Middle School. There are probably a couple of others on and about the Swamp Rabbit Trail or subsidiary trails connecting to the Swamp Rabbit Trail. Similar to the others that we have recommended for approval, we go through a process. We involve the school in looking at the request, our security folks, as well as facilities. We set some parameters for fencing. In this case, it's basically parallel to the road that runs around Hollis Elementary School, really almost inside, not all of it's inside, but almost inside the right-of-way to the road. So it's our recommendation to approve this in line with the similar requests that the board has approved in the past, allowing for community access to that trail during the day.
Thank
And
you.
nights and weekends as well.
Thank you, Dr. Royster. We have a recommended motion from administration. Do I have a maker of the motion? Ms. Brett?
Well, I have a question, but I'll make the motion too.
Okay.
I would like to make the motion to approve the Upstate Greenways and Trails Alliance's permanent and perpetual easement and right-of-way request at Hollis Elementary.
Mrs.
Second.
Brett has made a motion. Ms. Middleton has made a second. Now discussion, Ms. Brett?
Yes, just one question. So I'm looking at the picture here. We have a 5-foot fence goes almost all the way around the property. As far as that fence is concerned, there are no, I guess, there's no entryway into the property from that fence line. Is that correct? Like, there's no gate? The gate would be on the school side, I assume? Like the general public?
I don't think there's any gating on that particular fence. Is there?
Not a
Because
gate,
it doesn't come across the drives.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, great, that was it.
Thank you, Ms. Brett. Any other questions? Okay. Hearing no more questions, all in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. This concludes our committee of the whole agenda for today. I need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn?
Mrs. Mosley has made a second. Excuse me, has made the motion. Mrs. Doolin has made a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. The motion is, this session is adjourned at 9:45. So, thank you again to the audience for coming today. Have a